They always seem to find the sunshine. Snoozing in the sun. Oh, blue butterfly. That's a holly blue. You probably can't see that, they're tiny. I've been using the sprayer lately. I've had quite a lot to do, and obviously the normal watering takes a lot longer. And I'm just thinking that there's no adverse effects at the moment that I can see. I mean, using the sprayer, I sprayed everything in here this morning, every single pot, every single mount, and it took 20 minutes. Now normally when I do all my pots, you're looking at a couple of hours, so the time saving is incredible. The downside, if there, well, see if you think it's a downside, is I'm not picking my plants up. Now that means bugs can get a hold and I'm not seeing them. But there aren't many bugs in here at the moment, very thin on the ground, the bugs. But yeah, I wanted to show, no actually I'll leave it till Sunday because it's a question. So we'll leave it till Sunday, we'll sort it out then. Yeah, so at the moment I don't see any downside. I mean, this Masdevallia's sort of appeared and opened almost out of the blue. I mean, I saw the bud and then suddenly the bloom's there open, you know. But what I did notice this morning when I squeezed in round here is this manky looking zygopetalum, and I thought, that's a spike. Then I thought, I got a feeling that's two spikes. And then I looked again and I thought, and that's another one. I got a feeling they're all spikes. That definitely looks like two coming out from the same place, and then another one there. So that tatty looking object, that failure of a plant, is going to have 3 spikes on it. That'll probably do it in. But recently it has put out a lot more roots. So there's a lot more roots down in the pot now. But yeah, it's things like that that you miss. I've got zero Tolumnia spikes, but there's several of the Tolumnias are not doing very well, and they're on the list of having old moss. So they you know, but it's not necessarily those that are not doing very well. And there's a lot of things doing absolutely nothing. You know, they've finished their latest new growth, for instance, and they haven't started yet another one yet. So they're sitting there doing nothing. And there's a fair bit that comes into that category at the moment. It's sitting there doing nothing. I mean, this shelf here, there's another big zygo there. Well, that's finishing off growths that have already had their spikes. And there is a big new one round the back there, but I don't think that's got a spike on it. Or if it has, I can't see it. So that looks like a blind growth with no spikes. Yet the tatty looking one on the top's got 3. Oh, I don't know. Sometimes there's just no logic. And I have to put up with my voice. Well, I can only assume it's a cold. I've sneezed so many times today, I've lost count, and my nose just keeps running. Like, there's nothing, and then suddenly it just runs, and I have to get a mopping up crew out. It's like this lot all along here. There's nothing happening. I mean, this is a rescue cattleya. It grew a couple of roots, and now it's doing nothing. This one's got no new growth since the last one, doing nothing. This one's doing nothing. No sign of life anywhere, apart from a little root tip. It's just lots of things doing nothing. I mean, this is resting, so that's fair enough. That's the Cernua. The Twinkles, this little set of Oncidiums over here, there's many of these on the list of must get the moss sorted out. And I was waiting for new growths. Well, there's one. So that one can go now. We can get that one done. 2 on there, so that one can get done. 3, it's hiding under a leaf. So that can get done. This is old. This has got the collected live sphagnum moss on it that just compacts into a soggy mess, so that needs doing. This one over here new growth. Just the one, I think, at the moment, but it's got one. And then you come to something like this, and it looks like its latest leaf is going to fail. Or it could be just a coloration problem. This one should be pushing out some new growth soon, but it's got flowers on both of its latest canes, so it's doing the flowers thing at the moment. This is another Oncidium type that's got new growths just starting, and they're weak. They need sorting out. Another one here. My tiny Twinkle has run out of mount. See, now I sprayed that's light as a feather, so a lot of water didn't get in there like it would have done if I'd watered it hard. But we got new growths coming out in many places there, so I need to get the moss sorted. That is definitely in very old moss, that one, so that needs sorting out. So yeah, I was just sort of looking at lots of nothing happening. This thing's never bloomed. It's got nice new growths coming. And some new roots. This is not growing at all well. This is a Laelia type, and this failed its 2 flower spikes last year, so it never bloomed. That's not doing at all well. I might have to take that off the mount and perhaps try a pot. This is coming on, 2 nice strong new growths here. This has started a new growth on, because this is 2 plants here, 2 separate plants. One of them's got a new growth going, and the other one hasn't. And looking at the plants, the one that hasn't got the new growth doesn't look very happy, and it looks like it's aborted its 1 bud, whereas the other one looks like it's actually going to produce the flower. That will be a first-time bloomer if it does. The tiny little Masdevallia that I mounted is actually growing quite well. Slowly, but it's growing. So some things are doing okay, quietly in the background. And a couple of, one of those is Brassia type and one's an Oncidium type. They've got their new growths coming. That one's starting its new roots. That's got good moss, so that doesn't need touching. Yeah. And coming round here, the Nestor's still looking good. It's still absolutely gorgeous. And then there's another Arangus there. That's Mr. Sidii. That's losing a leaf, but there's signs of root growth on there. So that one's coming back into growth. This one's not looking very good at all. This is my Friedrichianum, but it has got buds, so we will get blooms. It didn't grow very well last year at all. So all we've got is old canes, and that includes this crushed one where it fell on the floor. Just got crushed completely, so that cane's going to get lost anyway. The Nestor's 2 new growths are pushing on nicely. Roots will follow, and they're not there yet, but they will be. The Lindleyi buds are pushing on nicely. I don't see colours yet, but they're pushing on nicely. My little Lodogessii kikis are not, they seem to start to grow and then fail. They're not doing very well, but you know, just have to leave them, see what they do. Another Brassivola type here, no sign of life on that. And then the Dendrobium harveyanum down here, that's a recent acquisition on this very strange mount. That is in effect doing nothing. Absolutely no. Would you believe it? There's a spike. So it's going to bloom. I'd prefer to see some. I hope that's a weed and not a new growth that's grown through the hole in the mount. Anyway, that looks like it's going to bloom. I haven't seen the blooms on one of those for a long time because I lost mine before. And then up here, we've just got a sea of dendrobiums that aren't doing much. I mean, the Nobiles blooms are going to fade soon. The other Nobiles should be, oh, this one's got a new growth. Some of them have got no new growths and are losing leaves. So there's a bit of an assortment up here. There's some Oncidium types up here as well that are starting some new growths. Oh, under here, these are all my Miltoniopsis, all except one. And there's at least one spike on that hybrid. Somewhere in there. Not much else going on. Wish this Roseoglossum would do something. Seems to sit there doing nothing. This now needs to be sorted out, Jenkinsii. There are some signs of new growths on there now, so that's got to be completely stripped off the mount, all the old parts of the plant taken off and remounted on a bigger, so there'll be less plant to mount, but it's going on a bigger mount, and hopefully I can get a nice flat one as well, because that affects the blooming on that one. The Rhinantheras that got stuck in the moss and bark, I still don't see new roots coming out anywhere. But the plants have got new leaves coming out the top, and then this is Dendrobium Thai Angel. That's a Phalaenopsis type. That's aborted its latest new growth, so that's not growing. So I don't know what that's going to do now. If the new growth fails, it now needs another one. So it's my big Miltonias here. A lot of pale leaves here on the older part of the plant, which are the largest leaves, so they look in a bit of a state. But if you look at the colour of the leaves on the new growths, they're actually okay. So I suspect they are getting a bit too much light. And then we've got this one down here, has got a nice strong new growth, Dendrobium something or other. Can't remember what one that is. Oh, it's actually a Cattleya, sorry. Duh. Right, and then we've got my my lovely Odontoglossum there, and that's finished blooming and should be putting up a new growth. But I was just going to say, but there's no sign of one. Yes, there is. We have our new growth. Excellent. Right, and then up here, the Cattleyas, several of these have got signs of life, but not much, not like huge activity going on. I mean, there's a bit of root activity on my apple blossom, and some of the others are showing some movement. I wouldn't say they're bursting into life though, they should be. Down here is a bit of an assortment. I was reading at Burnham's the Coelogene natida, that lives in an area where it doesn't get a huge amount of rain in the winter, so it effectively rests, not by choice. And then it lives in monsoon summers, so that's one that is heavy on the water in the growing season. But there's no new growths on it at the moment, just the blooms. And my big Sharry babies aren't showing any signs of spikes yet, but they are growing roots, because they had a strange mix. A lot of that was the Welsh moss, but some lovely new growths on them and roots, but no spikes, not yet. I would imagine when they do produce spikes, because of the strength of those plants and the size, they should be pretty big spikes, but we shall see. Derek's plants are an assortment, some old dying leaves, but quite a few of them have new growths, and quite a few of them are now producing some root systems. So they're not all lost, but some of them still could be. And then up here we've got our strange little species that's just opened, and a few in bloom here. And then up here my Hercoglossum is looking very sorry for itself. It isn't, but it is. It's got a lot of leafless canes now that's making it look really scruffy, and the last few leaves on some of those canes are turning yellow and dropping off, which is natural. But what isn't there that's noticeable is lots of new canes with new growths, with new leaves on. But we do have loads of buds. There's buds coming all over the place, so we're going to have a good few blooms, but I think that's going to have a pretty good tidy up. We might have to take an awful lot of the old leafless canes off, which might lose us some blooms. Not yet, obviously later in the year. And hopefully it's going to start shooting out from the base, but there's no sign of it doing that yet. There's no new growths on that plant at all. There's a few little signs of new roots though. Well, that's always good. A quick fly round in a sort of update form as I said, there's an awful lot of stuff doing nothing. And you can't say we're waiting for the start of the growing season. It's here. We're well past our 12-hour day length mark. The light's here, and I am getting daytime temperatures now. There's a period of about 3 hours where the sun's actually really hitting the roof now. Now it is hitting it at a very strange angle, but I might have to put some shading up on that half of the roof because this is quite bright. And if it's producing heat, then there's some stuff coming through the roof basically. Earlier in the year when we were looking at the way the sun was going, it was at such a low angle it didn't matter. It was like a glancing blow. Whereas now I think the sun's high enough to actually hit that part of the roof. So we might end up having to put some shading on. But we certainly don't need any on the sides, which is the bit that for me would spoil it, because then I'd lose the view to the garden. I had to put shading on the sides. One layer of shade netting draped across the roof there. I haven't got a clue how I'm going to fix it up there, but I'll find a way. We'll find a way. But that's something to look into. Right, as far as videos are concerned, I'm out most of tomorrow, and the Sunday chat's already established. Most of that, I've got some news that's a bit sinister, shall we say, but it's done now, so I'll give you an update on that and why those videos had to be taken down and consequences. And in addition to that, I'll do the answers to the Q&A video. So we'll get the laptop out here, set the tripod up, and I'll read the questions out and who posted them, and then we'll go over the answers that I can do. And we might have to whiz through them a bit because there is quite a few there. I wasn't expecting many this time round, but there's a good few there. I don't suppose there'll be many more now. It tends to be a sudden burst and then it sort of fizzled out for a bit. And last time I left it a long time, which I don't want to do that this time round. So we will be doing the answers on Sunday. And so a quick whiz round update thing. Trying to spot changes and stuff. I suppose I should be grateful that apart from a couple of dodgy dendrobiums here and there, there's nothing looks like it's dying. Everything looks like it's either sitting there doing nothing or it is thinking about coming back into growth. But it's when you get like a whole section like this with virtually nothing going on, it seems odd. As I said, I am getting some better daytime temperatures now, so we'll see how it goes. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.